Beware of the month of August. Beware of the month of August. What should we expect in August? I believe what we should expect in August is a lot of sudden, shocking news. Friends, let's just be super careful during this month of August, because spiritually, August is usually a month that requires people to be very alert, cautious, and careful. I just thought I should give you that heads up. Yeah, but let us move on now to the main topic of my show today. Okay? Where is James Orengo? Where is he exactly? Okay? And is there anything we can be told about the state of his health? Those are the questions that have been persistent on the local Kenyan political scene, especially over the last couple of days. You see, the situation now is threatening to move into a crisis, because the Siaya Governor James Orengo has not been seen for a very long time, well over a month. And it is said that he is in India seeking urgent medical attention. Now, the reason why the situation has moved into a crisis, as far as the Siaya government is concerned, is because you need a governor's executive signature to keep things moving in any county in the country. Even budgets for the county to be paid and released needs the governor's signature in several places. And the situation has been complicated in Siaya because I believe most of us know the governor and the deputy governor have not been talking for a long time. There has been a problem between the two. And Dr. Dual, the deputy governor, has told us that he has been sidelined from all county activities. Because you see, it would have been very easy for the governor to legally transfer his power to his deputy. But then there's that problem. And so, there is a real crisis brewing in Siaya County. But before we dive deeper into this Orango mystery, there are a lot of revelations you're going to get today on my show. But before we do that, I want you to take note of a trend in our politics. When you're able to take note of a trend early, it is really a great help in analyzing the real political situation. And the trend is the following. Have you noticed how prominent anti-regime characters have consistently been taken care of, mostly chini ya maji, over the last few months and even before that? Have you taken note of that? And Governor Orengo is a recent example, because he was taken care of, in quotes, so that he suddenly changed his mind and visited State House. Yeah, he changed his view about the cooperation between Raila Amolo Odinga, his party leader in ODM, and William Samoei Ruto. So he was taken care of because he was a major voice against this regime. And then suddenly things changed. Yeah, I believe Orengo visited State House on 5th June this year. And since then, we have missed his voice of wisdom against this regime. But we'll come back to Orengo in a minute, as we agreed. Now, this trend is a bit worrying. Because you see, for instance, a man called Jimmy Wanjigi had really come to the forefront, championing the odious debt angle against this regime. I'm sure most of us remember that. And then, Ametuliza Boli, he has gone quiet. There is no indication that he has changed sides. His message is still the same. But then he has reduced the momentum considerably. Why? Another example, Edwin Sifuna, the Secretary General of the ODM party. People have really been looking up to him. But then, he too was taken care of. How? ODM called a central committee of the party meeting. And after that meeting, guess who read the statement on behalf of the party? Of course, the Secretary General, Bwana Edwin Sifuna. And this time, he was dressed properly, not the way he was dressed when the agreement was signed between ODM and this regime. Remember how he was dressed? It came across as a silent protest. But this time round, not only was he dressed appropriately, but then he also very cleverly blocked questions from the press by attacking the press very vigorously, when it came to time for questions, even before a single journalist had asked a single question. Bwana Sifuna came out and said, I see we have very respectable media houses here. Of course, what he was insinuating is that he wanted only respectable questions, rigid questions, limited to this press statement, official press statement that had been released by the most powerful decision-making organ within the ODM party, the Central Committee. We all remember that. And so, even Edwin Sifuna has been taken care of, at least momentarily. I'm sure you can now spot the trend. Okay? And so the only voice that has been left is the voice of the long-suffering people. And people without elective posts, so to speak. And even if those people have elective posts, people who do not have that much political clout. And even those ones, we cannot guarantee that they will not be taken care of shortly. Chini ya maji. But back to Bwana Orengo, or Governor Orengo. Kenyans are worried. They are worried because we have a history of people who are against the regime, people who are against the government, suddenly falling sick under mysterious circumstances. And it would appear that in the case of James Orengo, he fell ill very suddenly. Now, of course, we have some people saying that Bwana Orengo, who is known to love his drink, his alcoholic drink, we have people saying, oh, finally, it is his love for alcohol that has caught up with him, and that he has some liver complications, and that is why he has gone to India to seek specialized medical treatment. Although it is true that lifestyles impact our health, that is true. What worries me is something called the timing. Oh, the timing. Why now? He would have fallen ill a long time ago. Why now? Because the timing seems to be too neat, too intricately placed. Wouldn't you say? And this is why Kenyans are very anxious about the health status of the governor of Siaya, a long-time activist for a better Kenya, somebody who has fought for the country, fought for democracy, fought for a better Kenya, and has paid the price. Orango has been jailed several times, even detained. He has had to flee the country. People are worried about Orango. So much so that this broad-based government, which is insensitive to what the people are saying and feeling, it has proved that, it has that track record. So much so that a member of that broad-based government has recently come out to reassure Kenyans. And specifically to reassure residents of Siaya County I'm of course talking about Raila Amolo Odinga during a funeral. In the county, on the 27th of July, Raila came out and reassured people that Orango is okay. Raila said Orango is the proverbial elephant. In other words, he occupies a big space in Kenyan politics. And when an elephant like that goes missing, of course people notice. That is what Raila told the people. However, Raila reassured them Orango was okay, and Orango indeed was in good health, and that he would return very, very soon. However, not even these very reassuring words from Raila Odinga have cooled down the anxiety of the people. People are still very worried. And top on the mind of most is just how sudden was this illness of James Orengo, that he did not have time to legally transfer the power of his signature to somebody else. You know, even in this modern world, there are so many things that can happen. For instance, even somebody outside the country can still sign a document while they're thousands of miles away. They can still sign an urgent document, can't they? At the very least, arrangements can be made for them to sign documents that legally transfer the power of a signature to somebody else in the county, a senior official, which raises suspicion that maybe the illness of this public servant may be such that they may not be in a condition to do that. And there is something else fueling the rumors. And that is, I've already mentioned this, the timing. You see, James Orengo controversially visited State House on the 5th of June. Shortly after that, he fell ill and vanished from the local political scene. And now we're being told he's in India receiving treatment. That timing is worrying people. Why? Because in the past, we have had many cases of people suddenly falling ill, even people who are super fit, of people suddenly falling ill, and then later on we learn that they were kind of obstacle to something the regime wanted to do. Maybe the best example of this is the former CS Interior, Joseph Nkaiseri, who was a fitness enthusiast, a former military officer, very senior military officer. He fell suddenly ill, and we were told he had a heart attack. Okay, anybody can have a heart attack. But what are the chances that a super fit former soldier can end up with such a condition? The chances of that are not very high. And there are many others. There's a former police commissioner called Philip Kilonzo. He knew too much about the Dr. Robert Ouko murder. Of course, he was on the government side. One day, very far away from Nairobi, in his home village, in a bar that he owned, he went out for a few minutes, and then when he came back and tasted his beer, he said, "This beer tastes strange." And those were his last words. He collapsed and he was gone. Hezekiah Oyugi, somebody else who was very deeply involved with the Robert Ouko case. Something happened to Oyugi. Some people claim alidungwa na kitu ambaye na kumaliza polepole. And Hezekiah Oyugi's health just went south and south and south until he was gone. The late legendary father of the second liberation of Kenya, Stanley Kenneth Njindo Matiba, was the same case. Matiba too was a keep fit enthusiast. He had climbed Mount Kenya several times, even Mount Kilimanjaro. But then when he was taken into detention, na akapatiwa kitu, his health just went south and south and south. He never recovered. We never saw the Matiba we always knew. We never saw that Matiba again. Yeah, until he passed on. And this is the reason why so many Kenyans are worried. They need to be reassured by being told the exact situation with the health status of the Siaya Governor, James Orengo. Of course, your health status is private, except if you're a public servant. The people need to know. It is in our constitution. The people must know the precise, exact situation as it is. You know, all this reminds me of the ebook that I had on offer last week on how Mutula Kilonzo Sr. was murdered. Many of you remember that offer. And I believe because of its relevance to what is happening in Siaya and to Orango, I have no other option but to bring up the offer. Now you can see details on your screen right now. For only Kenya shillings 14.99, you will not only get this ebook, but also thrown in are two very hot Moto Kuliko Pasi ya Makaa special reports. And also in the package is a video collection that includes what Mutula Kilonzo Jr. said about the murder of his father. Now, unfortunately, his remarks did not receive wide media coverage. But those remarks seem to confirm the contents of that controversial ebook of how and why his dad was murdered. Okay? Please use those details on the screen right now to get this very valuable, interesting, and relevant information, because we don't know what is happening. Okay? For only Kenya shillings 14.99 only, you'll be able to get all this information in your inbox. Pop. And please don't forget to text me your email address immediately after payment. You can either text it to the same M-Pesa telephone number, or you can send me a blank email on youmissthis@gmail.com so that you get immediate, fast service on this one. Friends, beware the month of August. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.